Trust is the invisible thread that holds human relationships together. It's the foundation of every friendship, every partnership, every meaningful connection we build. But for some people, that thread feels more like a tightrope, something precarious and dangerous. They don't hand out trust freely. They watch, they wait, they test. And there's a psychology behind why. When we talk about people who don't trust easily, we're not describing paranoia or irrationality. We're looking at individuals who have learned, through experience and observation, to approach trust with caution. Psychology suggests that trust operates on a spectrum. On one end are those who trust almost immediately, sometimes to their detriment. On the other end are those who require substantial evidence over time before they feel safe enough to let their guard down. Research indicates that people who are slower to trust aren't necessarily damaged or broken. They've simply developed a different relationship with vulnerability. Their brains have learned to prioritize protection over connection. At least initially. Understanding this pattern requires looking at where it begins, how it manifests, and what it means for the person living with it. This isn't about judgment. It's about understanding a common human adaptation to a world that isn't always safe. The psychology of trust begins forming remarkably early. Developmental research shows that our first experiences with caregivers create templates for how we expect others to behave. When a child cries and someone responds consistently with comfort, their brain learns a simple equation. Expressing need leads to having that need met. This builds what psychologists call secure attachment, a foundational belief that people can be relied upon. But when those early experiences are inconsistent, unpredictable, or absent, a different template forms. The child's brain begins to recognize patterns of disappointment or abandonment. It learns that relying on others can lead to pain. This isn't a conscious decision a 5-year-old makes. It's an adaptive response the developing brain creates to protect itself. The child who learns they can only count on themselves often becomes the adult who struggles to let others in. Beyond childhood, significant life events reshape how people approach trust. Betrayal by someone close, whether a partner's infidelity, a friend's disloyalty, or a mentor's exploitation, leaves a mark that goes deeper than the event itself. The brain, excellent at pattern recognition, starts asking, if this person could hurt me, who else might? Often observed behavior shows that one profound betrayal can rewrite someone's entire approach to human connection. They begin operating from a place of expect the worst, hope for the best, rather than giving people the benefit of the doubt. Interestingly, it's not always dramatic events that create guarded individuals. Sometimes it's the accumulation of smaller disappointments, promises broken repeatedly, confidences shared and then weaponized, vulnerability offered and then mocked. Over time, these experiences compound, teaching the person that emotional safety is rare and trust is a luxury they can't afford. The psychology here is straightforward. The brain is designed to learn from experience and adjust behavior accordingly. When experience teaches that trust leads to pain, caution becomes the rational response. Inside the mind of someone who doesn't trust easily, there's a constant, often exhausting process of evaluation happening. Their threat detection system operates at a higher sensitivity than average. Where others might see a friendly gesture at face value, they're scanning for hidden motives. Where others accept words as truth, they're cross-referencing with behavior. This isn't cynicism for its own sake. It's a protective mechanism that once served them well and now runs almost automatically. Cognitive patterns play a significant role here. The brain tends to look for information that confirms what it already believes, a phenomenon called confirmation bias. If someone believes that people are fundamentally untrustworthy, they'll unconsciously focus on evidence that supports this belief while downplaying evidence to the contrary. A friend who shows up late becomes proof that people don't care, even if that same friend has been reliable 99 other times. This selective attention reinforces the distrust, creating a self-sustaining cycle. At the emotional core of this pattern sits vulnerability, or more precisely, the fear of it. Psychology suggests that vulnerability requires two things: uncertainty and emotional exposure. For someone who doesn't trust easily, both feel unbearably dangerous. Letting someone see their real fears, needs, or insecurities means giving that person power to hurt them, and their experience has taught them that people will use that power, intentionally or not. So they maintain control by maintaining distance. They share selectively, reveal partially, and keep their deepest selves protected behind walls that took years to build. These self-protection mechanisms are sophisticated. Some people test others constantly, creating small challenges to see if the person will stick around. Others maintain emotional distance even in physically close relationships, sharing space but not inner worlds. Many develop an ability to give the appearance of openness while actually revealing very little of substance. Research indicates these aren't manipulative tactics, but rather unconscious strategies the psyche develops to balance two competing needs: the human need for connection and the learned need for self-preservation. In professional environments, the psychology of distrust manifests in distinctive ways. The employee who checks and rechecks colleagues' work isn't necessarily a perfectionist. They might be someone who has learned they can only trust their own verification. The manager who struggles to delegate effectively may not be a control enthusiast, but rather someone whose experience taught them that relying on others leads to disappointment. These patterns affect career progression and workplace relationships, often in ways the person themselves doesn't fully recognize. Often observed behavior in professional settings includes over-documentation, reluctance to share credit, and difficulty accepting mentorship. When someone doesn't trust easily, accepting guidance from a superior feels risky. What if that guidance is self-serving? What if showing their areas of weakness leads to exploitation? The guarded professional keeps their strategies close, their vulnerabilities hidden, and their achievements carefully attributed to their own efforts alone. Personal relationships reveal these patterns even more clearly. The person who doesn't trust easily tends to move slowly through relationship stages. Where others might share personal stories on a second date, they're still offering surface-level information 6 months in. They watch how potential friends or partners handle small confidences before risking larger ones. They need consistency over time, not grand gestures or passionate declarations. Words mean little. Repeated, reliable action means everything. In romantic relationships specifically, this psychology creates a particular dynamic. The guarded partner may care deeply but struggle to express it in ways that feel vulnerable. They show love through actions rather than words, through practical support rather than emotional disclosure. They need significant time before using words like love or commitment, because these words represent emotional risk. Their partners sometimes interpret this as coldness or lack of feeling, when it's actually the opposite. They feel deeply, which is precisely why they guard those feelings so carefully. Social interactions carry similar patterns. The person who doesn't trust easily often prefers one-on-one conversations to group settings, where maintaining protective boundaries is easier. They're observers first, participants second. At a party, they're the ones watching social dynamics before engaging, assessing who seems genuine and who seems performative. They maintain a small circle of established relationships rather than constantly expanding their social network. Quality over quantity isn't just a preference, it's a protective strategy. The impact of not trusting easily extends in multiple directions, affecting both the individual and those around them. Relationships suffer under the weight of constant guardedness. Friends and partners grow frustrated with what feels like emotional unavailability. They interpret the careful distance as rejection or disinterest, when it's actually fear. This creates a painful irony. The very walls built to prevent hurt end up causing the hurt they were designed to avoid. Psychology research shows that distrust can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When someone constantly expects betrayal, they may unconsciously create conditions that bring it about. Their testing becomes exhausting for others. Their emotional distance causes partners to withdraw. Their reluctance to fully commit makes others question the relationship's viability. Eventually, people leave, which only confirms the original belief. See, I was right not to trust. Internally, the person carrying this pattern faces their own set of consequences. Constant vigilance is exhausting. Always scanning for threats, always analyzing motives, always keeping guard drains emotional and mental resources. There's a loneliness that comes with it too, a particular kind that exists even in rooms full of people. It's the loneliness of being unseen, because the real self stays hidden behind protective layers. It's the isolation of carrying burdens alone because asking for help feels too risky. The burden of self-reliance, while sometimes worn as a badge of honor, grows heavy over time. When someone believes they can only count on themselves, every problem becomes theirs alone to solve. Every emotion becomes theirs alone to process. Every challenge becomes theirs alone to face. This isn't strength. It's a survival strategy that comes at tremendous cost. Yet there are genuine strengths that emerge from this psychology as well. People who don't trust easily often develop exceptional discernment. They're less susceptible to manipulation because they question motives others accept at face value. They set clearer boundaries because they've learned the importance of protecting their emotional space. When they do choose to trust someone, that trust is earned through consistent action over time, which often means the relationships they form, though fewer in number, tend to be more genuine and deeply rooted. For those who recognize this pattern in themselves, awareness represents the crucial first step. Understanding that their guardedness is a learned response, not an unchangeable personality trait, opens the possibility of choice. They can begin distinguishing between intuition, which is often accurate, and fear, which can be overgeneralized from past experiences. Not every situation is the old situation. Not every person is the person who hurt them before. Psychology suggests that rebuilding the capacity for trust happens gradually and intentionally. It's not about becoming naively trusting or abandoning healthy skepticism. It's about calibrating the system, adjusting the sensitivity of that threat detection mechanism so it responds to actual danger rather than perceived shadows. This might mean consciously choosing to share something small with someone who has proven reliable, then observing the response. It means practicing vulnerability in controlled doses, building evidence that not everyone will use emotional exposure as a weapon. For those interacting with someone who doesn't trust easily, patience proves more valuable than intensity. Grand gestures and passionate declarations often trigger more suspicion than comfort in the guarded person. What matters is consistency over time. Showing up repeatedly, following through on small commitments, respecting boundaries without taking them personally. Research indicates that trust, once broken, rebuilds slowly through accumulated evidence of safety. Rushing this process typically backfires. Understanding that guardedness isn't personal helps enormously. When someone holds back emotionally, it's not a judgment of your trustworthiness. It's a reflection of their learned relationship with vulnerability. The person who tests your reliability isn't insulting you. They're protecting themselves in the only way they know how. Responding with patience and continued reliability eventually creates the safety needed for walls to come down. Responding with frustration or demands confirms their fears and reinforces the walls. The psychology of people who don't trust easily reveals something fundamental about human adaptation. We're all shaped by our experiences, adjusting our expectations and behaviors based on what life has taught us. For some, those lessons have been harsh, and the adjustments necessary for survival. Their guardedness isn't a character flaw, but an intelligent response to a world that hasn't always been safe. Trust exists on a spectrum, and there's validity in different positions along that spectrum. The person who trusts immediately isn't necessarily wise, just as the person who trusts slowly isn't necessarily damaged. We each navigate human connection based on our unique combination of experiences, temperament, and learned patterns. Understanding these patterns, whether in ourselves or others, helps us approach relationships with greater compassion and realistic expectations. The question isn't whether someone should trust more or less, but whether their current approach serves them well. Does their guardedness protect them from genuine threats, or does it isolate them from genuine connection? Are they responding to present reality or reacting to past pain? These are questions only the individual can answer, but asking them creates the possibility for conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. Understanding the psychology behind guarded behavior opens doors to deeper empathy, both for ourselves and for those we encounter. Have you observed these patterns in your own life or in people around you? What do you think helps someone move from self-protection toward connection while maintaining healthy boundaries? The conversation continues in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring what makes us human.